Hi everyone, Olaf here again at CMP Attachments. We're going to do a little walk around again on our Hydra Bucket. We've got the direct drive motor is right here, recessed most of the way into the drum. So you can see this kind of burn mark here. That's about where that 5-inch bearing is recessed inside the drum. And the other side is set in about 6 inches. So you can see this hasn't been broke in yet, but we have a lot of grease that comes out. There's about a tube of grease pumped into either side. And you want to make sure you keep this grease. You want to see the grease come out between the side of the drum and the bucket. And it will take a lot of grease when it's first new, but once that gets broke in, you got to go through the metal seal. There's a fabric seal here, and then you have the bearing here, and about a tube of grease pumped in. So you keep it well greased, keep it full, take care of it. It'll last a long time. So these are carbide tipped, and then that tip actually goes inside of this tooth. It's not just a flat, like a Hershey Kiss here on top. It's actually this tip goes inside of this. And so as it wears, it's going to wear the material around it, but it also wear that tooth down. And you can see they all spiral to the center. There's 4 rows of them. They spiral to the center of the drum. They are individually hand welded on. These teeth are really designed to last the life of the bucket. So as you can see right here, these teeth pass by. This is cutting edge material that's welded inside the heel of the bucket. It's part of the chassis. And there's another cutting edge up here. This is also AR material, and you can see how close these teeth pass by. About a 1/4 of an inch gap here. So you can see like a fist-sized rock is obviously not going to go through there. So it's those smaller ones, those 2 to 3 inch size rocks, potato size, maybe a little bit smaller. Those are the ones that will kind of jam up this against this cutting edge here, and you have to reverse it out. Every now and then you can get a rock in there that you have to like bash out with a hammer, but it's pretty rare. But it can definitely happen. But generally, on the other side, we'll go over the relief valve. There's a relief valve built in to protect the motor, protect your machine. If this hits something hard that's not going to move, the drum just goes over, the motor goes over relief, and you just basically just reverse the direction and kick it back out. These teeth spiral to the center of the drum versus a power rake. The teeth are all individually across, and it picks it up and puts it right back down to where it was. The Hydra Bucket has these 4 rows that spiral to the center, so it brings material in and then it spills back around, and it carries material with you in the heel of the bucket, almost like a box plate. So as you travel backwards and forwards with it, you're gonna bring the material with, and when you do your final passes with it, it'll leave the ground, damn near like carpet. The depth of this dig is controlled by the angle of the bucket. So as you can see, when the bucket is flat on the ground, these teeth are just barely touching, and it's like a fulcrum. So when you angle the bucket down, heel down, tilt your bucket up, it almost acts, it's like a fulcrum, so that heel goes deeper, 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 and at some point those teeth are going to pull back out of the ground. So we normally tell guys about 2 to 3 inches of depth when you're running it, and just organically grading and leveling with it, it's going to speed up that whole grading and leveling process. This is also AR material, this strip here on the side. This is all AR. We have AR strips underneath. And then we have a welded on cutting edge with a bolt on reversible cutting edge as well. But you can see this drum is basically the full width of the bucket because those bearings are recessed inside. So if you have a 78-inch bucket you're working with is pretty close to 78 inches. It's going to be a little bit less. That's why we generally recommend you go over the width of your tires or width of your tracks. I like to see about 6 inches wider. That'll give you 3 inches on either side to cover your tracks. A lot of guys may want to keep it narrow, keep it as tight as possible, which is fine. But generally go just a little bit wider than the tracks on your machine. As you can see, the hoses come down here. The drum is bi-directional. You typically run the drum the opposite direction that you're traveling. There are cases where you want to run it the same direction. If you're trying to go through some taller material, maybe more thicker fodder, you may want to run it the same direction as you're traveling forward, because it'll kind of chop the material, throw it down a little bit underneath you versus trying to pull all that material inside the heel of the bucket. So generally, for general grading leveling, we generally run the drum the opposite direction that you're traveling, but there are cases that you may want to run it the same direction. And we have the hoses that come out. It goes into a bi-directional relief valve. So that's when, if you hit something hard or something that's not going to move, it won't do any damage to the drum or the teeth. It'll stop the drum, goes over relief, And a lot of times you can hear that hissing sound of the machine. A lot of guys understand that, or they know what that sounds like. When it goes over relief, it makes that kind of a hissing sound. You'll just basically kind of reverse, flick back and forth, and reverse the drum, kick out whatever debris is in there, and then hopefully just keep on going.
If you get a rock up it like a big chunk like that, if you hear it, just flip it the other way quick, run it out, and then it'll suck it back up and probably get it the next time. But don't just try to keep going, because it won't break through it. You'll have to let it out.
Is it stopping it?
It's stopping it.
It stops it.
When you see the hoses move and
it's got like a release valve.
It's over relief. Yep. It's to protect it.
A couple of things, when we send out this Hydra Bucket, we will send with the owner's manual. It'll come with a hex extension, torque it to 150 foot-pounds. And then after that, you're gonna check it every 3 months or so, and just make sure that you just don't want this to come loose. If you have your bucket up about 2 inches off the ground, you're in the ground about 2 inches. It's gonna vary on the machine, tires versus track loaders versus skids and all that. But that's kind of a general rule of thumb is heel down, tilt your bucket up. And then when you make your final passes, you can just, even if you just have your tip up, half inch or so, when you back drag with it, again, that material is coming to the center and it spills back around. So it'll leave your ground, darn near like carpet. So it does a really nice job. It really speeds up the whole grading and leveling process. A lot of guys put this on and leave it on as their general purpose bucket. They do have to be mindful of those teeth, and concrete and blacktop. If you heel down, you're going to scratch it. But like I say, a lot of guys put it on and leave it on as their general purpose bucket. They'll spread out the dirt, they'll spread out the gravel, they'll grade it all with this Hydra Bucket. And compared to like a power rake, the power rake is always going to be better for big open areas, lots of rocks, lots of trash. But a lot of times the Hydra Bucket will go on, and they can do almost everything they could with a power rake without switching attachments. A couple of things that we always talk with customers about is, if they have a power rake, they bring a bucket, they have to switch attachments, they have to unload, strap them down. And a lot of the time that Hydra Bucket will perform and finish a job faster than they could do that. So a job where you bring a power rake and a bucket, you switch back and forth a couple times, and you load and unload, there's probably about an hour and a half of unbillable time where you're loading, unloading. And so a lot of the times that Hydra Bucket's gonna do that work in that same amount of time. So you're bringing one less attachment, you get one less maintenance, and you have that much less labor. There's always talk about slip and fall when you're loading and unloading attachments. So anytime that you have to get in and out of the machine, that's a big deal. And so if you can prevent that as much as possible, that's where the Hydra Bucket really becomes a really viable option. We have a lot of success with this. We had a lot of positive comments about this Hydra Bucket. It's all made here in Clear Lake, Minnesota. From start to finish, it's all done here. It's really a great product, and it's really a lot of fun to sell because it's not just a cheap bucket or a cheap pallet fork. A Hydra Bucket really provides return on investment. Sometimes it pays for itself in a matter of jobs, sometimes it takes longer. But for a lot of these guys, our biggest thing is we want our customers to make money. And if they can take this and they can go out and reduce their labor, they bring in less topsoil to a job site, you're saving the customer money or the end user money, you're speeding up the process, and you're having a lot more fun with it. Fun comments I hear back from guys is that they can't ever use a regular bucket ever again. And once you grade level with a Hydra Bucket, you won't ever want to use a regular grading heel bucket or a construction bucket. You get spoiled. And it makes an average operator like me look really good, and I can do some pretty nice stuff with it. But you have an experienced operator that's good with a regular bucket, and you add this Hydra Bucket, it's lights out for some of these guys. So, it's great for its intended purpose, and we really are excited for the guys that get them, who have had them, who have multiple units. It's really fun to be a part of it. So feel free to reach out, text us, call us. And we're on Instagram and Facebook and all that, but hope you guys get a chance to run one of these someday because it's pretty awesome.
Made here, made better, CMP.